What would George Russell have to do with completely restructuring Mercedes' plan for 2026? Why were Toto Wolff and Kimi Antonelli left speechless after analyzing their data in Barcelona? It was Monday, January 26, 2026. In the paddock, the atmosphere was different. There was no audience. There were no memes. Just engineers, data, and silence. Formula One officially opened one of the most momentous stages in its recent history, the beginning of the new 2026 technical cycle. On the asphalt of the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, under a cold but dry day, the teams emerged with their cars born under a revolutionary regulation. These were no longer just new cars. It was about a new era that divided the past from what is to come. And in that hermetic environment, Mercedes had a lot to prove. The previous season had been a mix of ups and downs. They had achieved victories, but without the technical mastery of yesteryear. This new car, the W17, was his definitive bet to regain the top. The team arrived on the track with a clear strategy: divide the opening day into two halves, one for the young prodigy Kimi Antonelli and the other for the already established George Russell. What they didn't know was that at the end of the day, the conversations at the Brackley factory were going to take an unexpected turn. Antonelli was the first to take to the track. He rode in the morning, completing 56 laps. It was an incident-free session, which was already a success considering the complexity of the new car. But his times, although acceptable, were far from setting the standard. 1 minute and 20.7 seconds was his best time, and there was still some insecurity in the management of regenerative braking and in the adaptation to active aerodynamics. Learning was the goal of the day, but the room for improvement was considerable. Everything changed when George Russell got into the car in the afternoon. What should have been a data consolidation session was transformed into a demonstration of control, precision, and absolute mastery of the machine. From his first run, the Brit's times were consistently lower, without forcing. No errors. His lap pace started at 1:20, dropped to 1:19, and finally stabilized around 1 minute and 18.696 seconds. But beyond the stopwatch, what shocked the team was what the internal data showed on each screen. The telemetry reflected a balanced driving without wear peaks, with energy efficiency higher than expected and a track reading that seemed from another planet. Russell managed the 9 megajoules per lap of the new recovery system with the same naturalness with which only 2 were previously managed. Active aerodynamics, which in many other cars caused instability, in his hands seemed like another extension of his driving. The difference was not just speed, it was control, of technical understanding, connection between pilot and machine. Mercedes, who had arrived with reasonable expectations, began to re-evaluate her own internal program as soon as night fell. Russell's performance not only confirmed that the W17 was headed in a good direction, it confirmed that the British driver was ready to lead the project in a way that no one, not even Toto Wolff, had anticipated. In contrast, Antonelli watched, reserved, concentrated. Every engineer, every strategist, every staff member knew that they had witnessed something bigger than a simple test session. That Monday not only one car was tested. A new balance was revealed within the team. One that now revolved, more than ever, around the figure of George Russell. Inside the Mercedes garage, when George Russell got out of the car after completing his last stint, the atmosphere was different from that of the morning. There was no applause or open euphoria. What was perceived was a mixture of technical amazement and silent analysis. Because beyond the stopwatches, what was really impressive was the data on the screens. And in the center of that scene was Kimi Antonelli, the team's young promise, watching with almost contained concentration. Antonelli didn't need anyone to explain what he was seeing. He himself had been behind the wheel of the same car just a few hours earlier. I knew how he felt. He knew how complicated it was to tame such a radically new machine, with such a delicate balance between energy recovery, new levels of electric torque, and lively aerodynamics that required continuous adjustments during each lap. And yet, what George Russell had achieved in a single session was something he had struggled to even come close to all morning. The comparative graphs were cruel in their clarity. Russell was not only faster on the straight, but more stable in slow corners, more efficient in high lateral load corners, and his energy maps revealed an optimized regeneration capacity lap after lap without penalizing pace. It was a demonstration that required no interpretation. The numbers spoke with their own voice. And that voice said that Mercedes had in George Russell not only its leading driver, but also its best technical development tool for this new cycle. Wolff was not disappointed in Antonelli. Quite the opposite. He recognized his effort, his ability to adapt in a very high-pressure situation. But he also understood that the ideal environment for Kimi to grow will not be one of accelerated exposure, but rather intensive learning in the shadow of someone who has proven capable of pushing a car that everyone is still trying to understand to the limit. Therefore, according to internal team sources, Toto began to consider adjustments to the test schedule for Bahrain. Nothing public, nothing drastic, just small strategic moves that would allow Russell to shoot more, generate more data, while allowing Antonelli to absorb the knowledge from a more protected position. Kimi, for his part, showed no frustration. There were no rudeness or downcast glances. On the contrary, he stayed close to the engineers, asking questions, asking for comparisons, studying key differences lap by lap. He was aware that he was at the epicenter of a technical storm and that the best way to survive was to become part of the solution. His maturity did not go unnoticed. Some on the team noted that his behavior was reminiscent of George's early years at Williams. Listening more than talking, learning more than pretending. For Mercedes, that day marked a turning point, not because of the speed, not for the show, but because it reaffirmed something fundamental. In a year where everything had changed, George Russell remained the strongest pillar of the project. Toto Wolff, with his sights set on 2026 and beyond, began to envision a team built around that quiet but firm leadership. And Antonelli, far from being displaced, understood that his path was first to understand, then to equalize, and finally to overcome. But not yet. Not now. Because that day in Barcelona, the bar was too high even for a talent like his. In the world of Formula One, stopwatches tell superficial stories. But it is the data that reveals the deepest truths. And what Mercedes discovered when analyzing George Russell's performance on his first day of shooting with the W17 was not just a story of speed. It was a strategic confirmation. An unmistakable sign that they were on a powerful technical basis. And even more so, they had the perfect pilot to extract its true potential. Russell's analysis revealed a series of patterns that left even the most experienced on the engineering team speechless. In an era where energy efficiency is as crucial as speed, George struck a perfect balance in utilizing the new energy recovery system that now operates at up to 9 megajoules per revolution. A radical change compared to just 2 megajoules of the previous generation. To an onlooker, this may seem like just another technical number. But on the track, it involves a revolution in the way drivers must brake, accelerate, and balance the car. Each lap, Russell managed to recover the maximum allowed without affecting the lap time. That's no coincidence. It is surgical precision piloting. As for active aerodynamics, another new feature for 2026, the data showed that George was one of the few to use it effectively in every sector of the circuit. Where other drivers activated the moving profiles conservatively or erratically, Russell seemed to have intuitively understood which corners he could gain power and which ones to release drag to maximize top speed. That dynamic reading of the airflow in a car still without prior references put it in a completely different category compared to its rivals and its partner. At the degradation level, engineers noticed something even more disturbing. In long stint simulations, Russell's tire wear was consistently low, even using compounds with lower thermal tolerance. That stability didn't just come from the car. It was the product of an extremely clean driving style, with minimal steering correction and perfect corner exit traction. In other words, George was piloting with the finesse of a Swiss watch. Of course, this also comes with additional pressure. Because while Russell raised the performance bar to an unexpectedly high level, Mercedes now had to respond to that bar in all its areas. Reliability, technical evolution, race strategy, communication. The data did not only illuminate the present. They marked the route for everything that came after. And the reading was clear. The bar was no longer set by the rivals, but by George Russell. What happened on the first day of the Barcelona 2026 shakedown was not a simple systems test. It was not a technical procedure prior to the official tests. It was, for Mercedes, a kind of nonverbal statement that resonated throughout the paddock, although few could hear it in real time. George Russell did not need to go out to give shocking interviews or set the fastest lap to shake the internal structures of his team. His way of driving, the data he left, and the reading that was made of them inside the box were enough so that, at the end of the day, Mercedes knew that it was facing something more important than it expected. For Antonelli, the challenge now takes a new form. It's no longer just debuting. It is growing in the shadow of a driver who is at his technical peak, at a time when Formula One has completely changed its parameters. The new 2026 regulation requires skills that cannot be learned in an afternoon. But it also offers a unique window for whoever manages to decipher its codes first, to impose its dominance for several years. Russell seems to have taken that first step before everyone else. Leave me in the comments what you think about all this.